Today's quote is entitled, Blaming Others for How We Feel. Sometimes we blame others for how we feel, yet others are not responsible for how we feel. We are responsible for how we feel. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura said, know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. So this is such a common problem that we say something like, you make me angry, or you upset me, or you make me feel this way, you make me feel that way. But in reality, nobody can make us feel anything. We're just reacting to something that someone has done. And we have choices in the way we react. There's a need for emotional maturity, which simply means we control our emotional response. Just like we try to control our mind, we try to control our senses. Well, emotions are the subtle part of the mind. So we also need to control our emotional responses. And a lot of times we don't. And we're convinced it's another person's fault, or it's the fault of the situation. So if something is irritating you, you tend to look at what is irritating you and then say, well, I'm upset because of this. When in reality, we're upset because we're allowing ourselves to respond in a way that causes us to be upset. And that is why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that no one can harm you unless you harm yourself. In other words, no one's behavior can harm you unless you allow it to, unless you allow it to get under your skin. You know, there's a beautiful saying, and I think we may have said this a few months ago as a quote, but when someone does something wrong and you get upset, what you're doing is punishing yourself for the fault of another person, or punishing yourself for the mistake of another person, which is of course not intelligent. And in some way it's kind of amusing, but that's actually what's happening. So the big takeaway from today's quote is that whenever you get upset about anything or with anything, always remember that response is totally your response. It's your responsibility. You do not have to respond that way. There are other ways to respond. There are better ways to respond. And as we've said many times before, when you look at the lives of great devotees, you see a very consistent response to whatever comes to them. They respond with understanding, or they respond with service, or they respond with compassion. In some way, their response is always directed towards helping the person or praying for the person. Whereas conditioned souls, we tend to respond in very negative ways where we may not wish well for the person, or become angry or resentful or whatever. So remember, your response is your response. No one is responsible for how you feel. You can't blame anyone for how you feel. It's totally your responsibility. You are in charge of your emotions. So, what's the conclusion? Let's take charge of our emotions. Hare Krishna. If you like this video, you can subscribe below. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you share this video with others, if you comment on it, if you like it, do whatever. You have to click to share it, because I think a lot of devotees would appreciate getting these videos. I try to take our philosophy and put it in a practical way so we know how to apply it in daily activity. And this is one of the services I do, and I want to reach as many devotees as possible. If you can help me, I'd appreciate it so much. Thank you.